All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. You're in the room for the session titled Roundtable, Different Models Using the CANs with Family Support and Advocacy. Just wanted to, before we start, remind you that it would be helpful for us if your Zoom name matches the name that you used to register for the conference. So if it doesn't, to change that, you can just click on the Participants tab at the bottom, find yourself, and then click the More little area at the right-hand side, and then rename will appear as an option. We're also encouraging everyone to participate with your cameras on. Since this is a professional conference, we want to try to replicate the in-person experience as closely as we can. We're going to get started in a few minutes as soon as we get everybody admitted. I wanted to just ask folks that when we're together in the big group like this, if everybody could mute themselves so that we could minimize the outside noises, and then when the presenters would like to get some feedback from folks, you can unmute yourself. You'll also be able to unmute yourself in the breakout rooms. So make sure you do that once you head into the room. Let's see. So we'd like you to stay till the end of the session if you can. At the very end, we're going to give you a little nugget that will display for participation in the Mind Cans game on the Socio app. And we're going to start very shortly. Okay, looks like everybody is in the session right now. My name is Lynn Steiner. I'm with the Center for Innovation and Population Health at the University of Kentucky. I'm going to be moderating the session today. So if you have any questions or technical issues, feel free to email me in the chat box. I'll also be helping the presenters today with some of the questions. So I want to introduce our presenters for the session that you're in right now, which is different models using the CANs with family support and advocacy. Our presenters today are Janet Hoeke, who's a parent consultant, Nancy Craig, Director of Community Services and Engagement at Families Together, Leinani Mallory, Family Support Coordinator at Magellan Healthcare of Louisiana, and Joel Boultinghouse, Executive Director of Behavioral Services of Louisiana. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. So you can share your screen now, Janet.
Great. Hi, everyone. It's great to have everybody here today. We're super excited to have you here. Welcome to the Cloud Conference 2020 for TCOM. We are excited to finally be together for our discussion of different models using the CANs with family support and advocacy. We want this to be as interactive as possible in the 2 hours that we have. So we're going to take a little time to tee this up with some information about the models that are in Louisiana, New York, and Illinois, or sorry, not Illinois, Idaho, different I word there, followed by a brief introduction of the role of parent and youth support partner in the teaming process and some of the survey results. Please feel free to add your voice to the conversation through the chat box. We will do our best to include all these voices as we go, and know that we will be breaking out into smaller groups to allow for more collaborative interaction. But first, let me get this moving along here. We have a phenomenal cast of moderators for today's discussion. Each bring lived experience and a passion for family and youth support and collaboration. We're excited to have you all share in the conversation today. Our moderators for today are Joel Boultinghouse, the Executive Director of Behavioral Services of Louisiana, Nancy Craig, the Director of Community Systems Engagement for Families Together in New York State, Leinani Mallory, the Senior Family Support Coordinator for Magellan of Louisiana, and me, Janet Hoeke, the obviously disinterested parent from the Idaho Parent Network of Children's Mental Health. We'd like to find out a little bit about you all today and where you all are from. So we're going to run a quick poll here just to find out what role you most often play in the CANs. So if you wouldn't mind just quickly answering those, we kind of get an idea of who we have here today. Look at that, so many responses. Getting close now. I'll put this up in just a second and then we're going to pass it on to Joel. All right, looks like we're about 83%, so we're going to go ahead and post this. So it looks like today we have about 34% administrators and 34% clinical or CANS assessors. We have 2 in the family support category, and then 26% are supervisors. And we have a youth support person here, so that's awesome. We'll pass this along to Joel and let him get going here. Joel, you're on mute.
Yep, taking it off. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Joel, and I'm down here in Louisiana, and I'm going to go over the learning objectives. It's really great to see so many different people in the teaming process represented. We have different states, different time zones and such. So just echoing what Janet said earlier, I really encourage people to join in the chats with comments and or questions. So first learning objective is identify different models of collaboration and teaming using the CANs. Obviously, we're going to have 3 different states in this presentation from our point of view represented, and I know there's a lot more out there, so I'm really looking forward to seeing all the different models and ways there are to collaborate and work together. The second objective, identify and understand the roles in the teaming process. Again, that was why we started off with that poll, all the different roles. People are coming from different points of views, and we're going to be discussing that. Thirdly, identify ways to successfully implement sustainable family and youth voice. I'm really looking forward, I think, as we all are, to successes and how y'all work what works. That's a really great part of collaboration, of hearing the successes. And then finally, what I was about to say is I think a lot of times people mention the challenges more than anything. And that's the great thing about collaboration from different models and perspectives, is we're able to, with these challenges, get different perspectives and hopefully solutions to some of these challenges. So first off is the Louisiana model. In Louisiana, we have a coordinated system of care, and that is overseen by the state agency, the Louisiana Department of Health. Once a referral is made, the referral is overseen by Magellan, and Leinani is the Magellan representative on this panel discussion. And then we have 9 different regions in Louisiana, and those regions have 9 different wraparound agencies, and they facilitate the coordination and all that of the referrals. So in Louisiana, it's a waiver system. We have 2,400 slots, ages 5 to 21, and it serves a population that is at risk of out-of-home placement. And obviously, how the CANS comes into this is that it determines eligibility. It is funded obviously by Medicaid, but in Louisiana, we have 5 different separate Medicaid companies. So we have United Healthcare, we have Aetna. So if a child that has United Healthcare gets referred to the coordinated system of care, or wraparound, once they do a brief little phone interview, just do initial assessment, it is turned over to Magellan, and they oversee the care. So they don't lose their the old health insurance kind of goes away, and so while they're in this program, it's overseen by Magellan. So the local wraparound agencies have 30 days to complete the CANs, And that is, of course, to assess eligibility. So they have that first 30 days to do that. The role of family and youth supports is once they are enrolled in the coordinated system of care in Louisiana, they are eligible to elect 4 different services. And 2 of those are peer services that my company provides. We provide parent youth support and treatment and youth support and treatment. So they can elect to have either of those services or both. The other 2 services are conducted by other agencies, and that is short-term respite and independent living and skill building. So that is it for the Louisiana model briefly, and now we're going to go over to Nan to find out about New York.
Thanks, Joel. You know, every time you explain this, I learn a little bit more. So, and it gets a little clearer on where we touch point and where we're a little different. So, in New York, true New York fashion, things are, we're together, pulled apart, and now we're back together again. So, our system is over the Department of Health, oversees the Office of Mental Health, the Office of Children and Family, our foster care young people, and the addiction services and supports. So in our process, we had a 1915C and we converted to a 1915I, and our population is 0 to 21 with complex needs. And that definition allows any youth in foster care to meet those requirements of being able to receive a multitude of services in New York State. Our funding, we have lots of blended funding, and we opened our state plan this year and included family peer support, youth peer support, along with a multitude of other services for the home for Medicaid eligible people. The system also has, through our mental health state department, we have aid to locality dollars, and that funds our family peer support, community-based family peer support, where you do not need to have insurance, you do not need, there's no cost. If a family called today and said, nah, I got some problems, an advocate, a family peer advocate will be able to support that family through their journey, however long that would take. If they have Medicaid, that's great, because then we can bill that. We have a couple different kinds of systems of care. We have a state system of care that works with some pretty intensive counties to change some philosophies and to really get kind of down and dirty. And then we have some county-based system of cares. So our CANS is used to determine level of care, level of need, and health home care coordination. You know, the more severe the child's youth is, the more services come to bear. In our home community-based services, we have New York State wraparound, and all of these services, the intent is to be in a wraparound model. So child and family teams, you're not supposed to do anything unless you bring a team together. And a team would be more than just the parent, the child, and the clinician. That's the expectation. We're still working on how that gets implemented. And the best part that I love talking about the most is the role of family peer support. The great part about New York, I can't, after listening to Louisiana and to Janet out there, we're going to march on your state, I promise, is that we are blessed for the amount of family peer advocates we have in New York State. We have over 450 credentialed family peer advocates, a little over 100 now of youth peer advocates. We have 68 family peer support programs that serve any family that all they have to say is, I don't know what to do. My child, my family, we're in trouble. We have 10 independent family-run organizations across the state. The best part, and this is where we differ a little bit, on our cans. In family peer support, New York State, about 17 years ago, we developed our own, we call it a FANS, Family, Child, and Needs, Family Strengths and Needs tool with, partnered with Dr. Lyons and his folks. And we developed an outcome tool, an assessment tool, specifically for family peer support. And at the end of the slide deck, when you have it, we gave you a sample of our questions. And the other great thing that we have in New York that I forgot to include in here is our Department of Health, because they so believe in the CANs and the work that the CANs can do and help with families, that we created, New York State created a New York State CANs Institute, where we have lots of trainers, we have people that help and work through how you do the CANs with the family as a partnership, and to make sure that we have fidelity to that model. So that's New York, and we're going to give it to Janet, and she's going to share everything about Idaho.
Thank you, Nancy. And as much as many people in Idaho might not say it, I will. We welcome you to come to Idaho and help us figure this out. So our Idaho model is lawsuit driven. We have a 30+ year, probably approaching 40-year lawsuit now that involves the Department of Health and Welfare, which includes both Medicaid and the Department of Behavioral Health, the State Department of Education, the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections. Providers, parents, and attorneys are all still involved in this collaborative process of figuring out how to implement a system of care for children's mental health in Idaho. Our mental health system here is called YES, Youth Empowerment Services. So if you hear me refer to that, that's what I mean. I try not to have acronyms come up without explaining them. The population we serve are Idaho residents under age 18 with a mental health diagnosis and a functional impairment as identified by the CANs. And it is funded in large part by the Medicaid state plan. There are some state general funds, but most of you will notice we do not have a system of care grant in Idaho. And I think that most of you would think that was highly unusual. We think it's highly unusual too. The CANs here is used to identify eligibility for those children who are 185% to 300% of the federal poverty guidelines and those who want respite. So we used our 1915I waiver in order to increase the eligibility for families. So now we can cover all the way up to the 300% of the federal poverty guidelines. We use our CANs for a level of care determination, to develop our coordinated care plan, to help us with our child and family teams. And it is supposed to be one child, one CANs, one plan. We'll get there. We're not there yet. We've been working at it for a number of years, but I still know several families who every provider wants their own CANs. And the role of family and peer supports is minimal in Idaho. We do have family support partners, they exist, but they are linked directly to a provider agency. And because they're linked to a provider agency, we cannot introduce a family support partner to a family until after the family has gone through their initial eligibility and their level of care determination and developed their coordinated care plan. So the first time a family, most families in Idaho even know there's another family out there who's walked this path, is after they've already navigated the entire introduction to our system, which has changed dramatically just in the last 5 years. And our youth peer supports are still just basically under development. So that's an opportunity for you to hear about 3 different models. If you all have comments or want to tell us anything about your model, please go ahead and put it in the chat box. That way we can come back and refer to that later and help us all learn a little bit more. And I'm going to pass it on to Nancy.
Thanks, Janet. I'm telling you, we can do it. We can march on. And we're going to get you a system of care grant that employs a whole bunch. You can have 600 advocates. As you guys can see, this cartoon that we put up, And we're going to talk a little bit about perspectives and the process, the teaming process. Everybody, we kind of batted around how we would explain child and family team for those states who don't do child and family team processing. So we're calling it just a teaming process, right? When you bring people together to work together for a common good. So the perspective is so different by every one of those members. And we're going to put up a poll in a second that asks you to identify what's your role? What role do you play in this teaming process in a child and families team? And just so that we get to know a little bit and be able to figure that out. And while you guys are doing the poll, we want to just, you know, the cartoon is cute, right? The guy on with the land is saying, "Oh, a boat! I'm rescued! Woohoo!" And in the boat, they're like, "Oh, thank God, a land! I can get off of this rickety boat." And I hope when they get together that the perspective is, okay, we're together. You have land. I got a boat to get us someplace. Where do we want to go, and how are we going to get there? So as we move through the rest of our presentation and into our breakout rooms, kind of keep that in mind, right? The process is to work together. So it looks like we've got quite a few. That 43%, 20 people are not involved in a teaming process. So this will be great. Good to learn and take back the information. Our youth support, I'm so happy we have youth. People are facilitators and clinician and assessors. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. Janet, do I end that or do you end that?
I got it, and I'll share these.
Got it. Thank you. Wow, that is fantastic. Great. Lots of thank you so much for doing that. I know sometimes I don't like polls when they come up. I'm like, oh, it comes too fast. I can't remember what I'm doing. But we're going to go to Joel, and he's going to talk about defining the role in family peer support.
Yeah, thank you, Nan, and thank you everybody for participating in the poll. It's great to see, again, like I said earlier, so many different roles. I knew they'd be out there, and I'm really, really, really happy to see a couple youth supports out there. That's great. So, Nan, we've been working on this for many months. Kind of early on, told us of this teach, coach, mentor that you see on your screen. And I had never heard that before, but I think it's a really, really great kind of almost a step in this whole process. So I'm just going to briefly go over this. So teaching, obviously, broad system overview used to assist family in understanding the process and possibilities. So this is laying out information. We're going to get into some further detail earlier. Some of y'all asked questions before this of just how to assist families and whose role should that be in this. So in relation to peer supports, my company, I'm proud to say, we hire people based on their experience, their lived experience. That's what peers do. So we have a parent support that has experience with OJJ. So they might be working with a family that needs help in the academic special ed realm, but still their overall experiences are going to say, you know, they're there to teach this. There's like this, we're going to have this meeting and this is what this means. So we hire people that have a lot of lived experience, but also because they are lived it, they know how to access these resources. So next is coaching. And I attended a session this morning that they were talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and that was kind of neat. My son's a big basketball player, and I think about him and his coaching. But one of the things that I really walked away from that morning session is they talked about problems that are unstructured problems. And I think about it all the time, but I've never heard it referred to as that. And so that's what I think of my son playing basketball is the coach will teach them all these drills, all these plays and stuff. But actually during the game, they're going to be a little bit different. Every family's different, every play's different, every situation's different. So we need to be able to coach these families. These peers need to be able to coach these families how to deal with these unstructured problems, right? if every problem were the same, we could just give them a pamphlet and say, this is how you do it when your son's arrested. Problem solved, right? That's not reality. All problems are unstructured. So we have a peer there that's coaching them and say, okay, I wasn't expecting that, but we can deal with this. They're there, they're living, breathing examples of peers. And then finally, mentoring. And like I said, the one of the big parts of being a peer is that you are a living, breathing example that you could overcome your challenges. So with mentoring there, and I also, the one thing I like about this teach, coach, mentor is it's kind of the most intensive at the teaching, and then it moves to the coaching, and then it moves to mentoring. So you're kind of backing off a little bit and letting that man know that they can do it. You're not doing it for them. In the middle part, you're doing it with them. But as you mentor, you're just kind of touching in and saying, okay, that's great. You can do this. You got this. You got this. So these peers bring their unique experience. Again, everybody's unique. All these experiences are unique to these families that have similar experiences. So we're going to go to Nancy now with survey results.
Actually, Joel, I think I'm going to take this one and then I'll pass it on to Nancy.
Oh, wrote it down wrong. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. So in August, we wrote a blog for the TCOM and embedded in it a survey on the successes and challenges using the CANS data within a peer model. There were 11 respondents from California, Nevada, Virginia, and Wyoming, and we want to share those results with you. Please add your own successes, your challenges, your burning questions into the chat. We might be able to pick those up as we go or also in our breakout rooms. It's so encouraging to see others with similar struggles, as well as find those who have already found a way past the barriers that we're currently experiencing. So please don't hesitate to jump in and contribute in the chat. Nancy?
Okay, thanks, Janet. We're going to talk about what works really well when you include family peer support within your system of care. And we're talking not just the formal wraparound system, we're talking the big system of care, right? Family support is, I would say 20 years ago, we would be like the, hey, don't forget. And now we're at the table, families, as Joel said, we're all lived experience. You don't get this job unless you've gone through the system and had complex care and services that you've received. The best experience is that lived experience. When, as Janet said, we did a short survey just to gather a little bit of feedback so that we could tailor our presentation to meet the needs of what folks want. And we heard from some clinicians across the state and some others that did not identify as one way or the other, and from parent partners. And what the clinicians said is that, parents and youth, why we want to have parents' inclusion of family peer support is that they feel that there's somebody there on their side that can help them with their voice when they are nervous or upset or they can't find it. As Joel said in our Teach, Coach, Mentor, in the beginning, sometimes the family peer support becomes the voice. They're the interpreters for families because they're shy or not comfortable speaking for themselves. Some of the clinicians said that the needs of the family come out when you're with family peer support, and that is so true. Right? I can sit down with a parent who's maybe has her child or his child in the hospital, and I can say, I get it. It's really scary. People don't talk to you. And they're like, yes, how did you know? Well, because I walked that road too. And there's a weight off their shoulders. So some of the others that responded that being able to relate to the families, sharing their personal experience like that, it gives them a sense of hope. Someone gave me a sense of hope, and I truly believe that it's my responsibility to pass that on. I have a mantra that I say every day I get up, and I say, I am honored and privileged to serve the families of New York State. That's who I am, and that's what I want to carry forward. And that's what I hope that all of those advocates that we have in New York and across the country do. We meet families where they're at, right? We don't expect them to be anything more than the hot mess they are today, right? Or the controlled chaos. That's sort of where I was. Well, maybe not so controlled, maybe just chaos. So we meet them there, and it's okay. It's okay where you are. It's okay if you don't want to do what maybe I suggest and say, hey, this worked for me. You want to try? No, it's okay. So the parent partners, what did they say? Because I love hearing what others in our position talk about. That, just this touching back to let people know they're not alone is good. Just saying, hey, just wanted to check in. How are things going? And before you know it, an hour's gone and a whole list of things that we've talked about and kind of solve the problems of the week. And then one of the best part that I think that we learn as we go through this is that we help families develop a strategic way to get their needs met, right? I remember my first meeting, I just went in and cried. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know what I needed. And now I don't cry as much. I still cry, but not quite as much as I did, 20 years ago. That I can put into words what my family's needs are and how we need them. And, one of the things that we developed in New York and with our fans, the only thing we set out to do was to say that when families are attached to this experience called family peer support, they got stronger. That's all. Because that's what happens. That in itself is this great part. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, folks, and we're going to go to, Leinani, because she's going to talk about challenges.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was very great. I appreciate that. And so now that we know some of the benefits of family support, let's say we talk about the challenges. So our survey identified that at a system level, there wasn't really an understanding of how important the peer role is. And in those systems that were inclusive and did seem to understand, oftentimes they had unreasonable training and education requirements that were excluding qualified peers from the profession. And I thought it was interesting that one clinician responded that they didn't know about any challenges. And although the survey didn't identify why, I did wonder, was it because the challenges that we know exist weren't being discussed? And if they were being discussed, were these discussions making it back up the chain and ultimately resulting in any sort of action that will help peers and family support? And the next one is one that I think that we can all relate to. Parents and guardians are reporting that they're feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes we forget that they're maintaining households, working a job, bringing kids to and from their appointments, managing crises, sometimes their own, and so on and so forth. So we come in as peers and family advocates, and we're all well-intended, but also unintentionally adding an additional layer of people and other things and stress to their lives. And that can be a really difficult balance for those families to strike. So segueing into our next challenge, engagement. The peer profession already has its own unique set of challenges with engagement. And to add to that, we're in a situation where we're having to provide services that were intended to be or mostly intended to be face-to-face. And as peer advocates, you're engaging families that are very likely already living a majority of their lives on some sort of digital platform. And not to minimize Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever other platforms are being used right now, because they're excellent tools. And they've been instrumental in allowing us to continue to provide care via telehealth. But it's really easy to lose a lot of that chemistry and those dynamics that seem to occur in face-to-face interactions. So if you're working with a family for a period of time, I know it can be really challenging to find new and creative ways to keep that family engaged that you haven't already been using already, or that another provider is not already using. And who can't relate to the next one? And that is time. Families, and I know I am too, are already short in time and resources, and yet we're asking them for more. Time to take another call. We want them to attend another meeting, find another provider, and help troubleshoot their child's crises, which can cause even more frustration and anxiety. And the next and last one is very near and dear to me, and it comes from one of our parent partners. And this parent partner shared that he or she was feeling undermined and underutilized in the team setting, and also feeling like an outsider for not having the same clinical training as the other providers working with the family. And it can already be a challenge being the new guy or girl on the team, but now you're the new guy or girl on a team that may not view you as equally capable. So I'll let you think about that while I turn it over to Joel for our next slide.
Thank you, Leinani. Yeah, definitely. Just thinking of time and resources and challenges is definitely something I think we can all relate. So in our poll survey earlier, these were some of the burning questions that y'all had, and I'm just going to go over some of these. A parent advocate from Virginia is sounds like a kind of a particular problem is a child being placed in out-of-home placement, and I'm assuming in a different location. And so this location is not covering education. They're covering room and board and treatment while in that residential facility, but education is not. And I know that seems like a kind of a systems obstacle that might be kind of difficult, and hopefully that can be brought to somebody's attention that makes those decisions, because that definitely seems like a pretty big hole in that particular system. The next one, a clinician asking where to find advocates. And I think that's a good question. And one of the reasons that why I like work from sea to shining sea here is that there are so many different types of systems, and some are kind of further on in their evolution. Diane from New Jersey chatted just a little bit ago, and it sounds like New Jersey has a very good system, a lot of structure, a lot of things, different funding sources, not taking income into place. So, and on the other end of that, I don't know if Janet's down at the other end of that spectrum in Idaho there, but some states aren't as far down that road. For some reason, Louisiana is pretty good. We're usually at the bottom of things that are bad and such, but I think I'm happy to say that in Louisiana, we're pretty good as far as coordinated system of care and peer services in this state. A parent advocate from Virginia, why not have the peer be the first person that a family greets? And that's a great question, and that's something that's already kind of come up indirectly here. You know, these families are nervous. They don't know what's going on. And that's when that peer would do that first step of education and saying, okay, this is just a preliminary hearing. The judge is going to want to see this, is going to want to know that you're in this treatment, that you're seeing this counselor, this and that. And so these families would have somebody across the table before they went into the chambers and say, this is a really great judge. It's okay. I'm going to tell you, we're going to walk step by step through there, and I'm going to be right there by your side. So that's a really good point. Is, you know, these peers, I feel lots of settings, clinical, outpatient, hospital, would really do well by having a peer be that first person that the families come into contact with. They'll be able to explain it. And kind of on that same note, why not have a peer make outreach calls? Again, another really great suggestion. You know, again, it's not somebody at a laptop filling out a form. It's somebody that there's some warmth behind that, and say, hey, I understand. You know, I did this process, and I know there's 2 pages of questions I have to ask you, and I know it takes a while, but believe me, it'll make sense because I've been there before and such. So again, the peer, I hope everybody walks away from here and hopefully walked into here knowing what a crucial role these peers could play in a number of different settings and systems. And next, a parent advocate asked, why not train case managers, FAPT, and we had to Google this, Family Assessment Planning Team. It seems to be specific to Virginia. FAPT members, therapists about what the legal guardian is experiencing. Again, another crucial role that peers can play in the teaming and bringing these people together. I've worked with plenty of medical doctors, psychologists, therapists, social workers, went into the field because they wanted to help. That's great. I welcome that. That's wonderful. But a lot of times they don't know what it's like to be in a house without running water. And so somebody could say, listen, this is their situation. This is what it's like to be in a homeless shelter. This is what it's like to have a mom that's chronically in and out of psych hospitalization. So these families can see, again, the warmth behind these letters, behind these numbers. Again, a crucial thing that peers can bring to the table. Next, a parent partner, how to communicate that the family support is a vital part of the team to assist. Again, what I was just saying, vital, really important. Did I just say that one again? Okay, there's kind of some overlap. I thought I was repeating myself. So yeah, just and helping these families feel heard, that empowering the entire family. That's a really big part that I think it takes some work. And this morning they were talking about time and someone, and the challenges of time and doing it right the first time. And somebody said, it's what I love about conferences is someone said, if you can't do it right the first time, when are you going to do it right a second or third time? So just, put the time into making sure that these families feel that they are heard and they are empowered with that. And then finally, again, this just talks to how far different states are in their development of the whole peer system and model of further education and professional advancement. Some states have training. I attended a 2-week peer training in Louisiana. The Louisiana Department for Health, a number of times a year, puts on a 2-week intensive training where we all stayed in the same hotel, and we did that. And after that, we got a certificate, and we were able to go out into the world as a trained peer professional. Great for a career, great to further advocating the industry, the career, and also for their families by telling their stories. So lots of great burning questions, and I look forward to hearing more in the breakout sessions, which will be coming up. And now I'm going to turn it over to Leinani with some summaries, beginning of summaries of this part.
Thanks, Joel. So to summarize briefly, there are many benefits to embedding family peer support into teams. Building rapport, that's essentially building the basis for continued success of that peer relationship, and by extension, their treatment goals. So that rapport is really what's helping us build those bridges with the families. Infusing hope. So we are infusing hope by relating to the families and sharing those personal experiences that is giving the families a sense of hope and feeling like they aren't alone. Powering with, not powering over. So peer support is always intended to be a mutual empowerment between peers. It's not intended to result in an imbalance in power dynamics, like some families may be feeling in other traditional models of care. So having that person or partner who's willing and able to stand side by side with the family while providing encouragement along the way, telling them that they do have a voice in their own treatment is priceless. And lastly, perspective. Peer advocates bring a very unique expertise because of their lived experience, and they're able to leverage that experience to help the families they serve. But it's also bringing a balance and perspective to the teams and systems that they're operating within. And hopefully, it's fostering an attitude of excitement around recovery. And they're also modeling what that looks like. So that unique perspective may also be what helps to identify a parent or a child who may be confused, disengaged, or overwhelmed, and for whatever reason, just don't feel like they can express it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Janet.
Thank you, Leinani. So we are going to move into breakout groups. It looks like we have about 45 minutes, and we're going to divide into 4 breakout groups. Each of them will be facilitated by one of us. The first one will be moderated by Joel, going over a teaming scenario. The second is by Nancy, working on changing perceptions of parents and peer supports. The third will be moderated by myself, working on engaging the checked out parent. And the fourth will be moderated by Leinani in overcoming barriers to family and peer supports. So you're going to get automatically broken into one of these groups. We encourage you all, I think there's about 50 of us here today. So there'll be a little bit more than 12 people in each group, 12 to 15, depending on how many the breakouts go. So we encourage you to unmute and contribute and talk and have a real conversation in these breakout groups. Then when we're done, we'll come back together to give us all some time to be able to share what we learned, and hopefully all of us can come away with some great nuggets of information we can take back to our individual regions and states.
Janet, what time do you want the breakout groups to end?
Let's see, 3:30 your time, is that right? About 45 minutes from now?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and put people into breakout rooms.
Great, thank you.
Lynn, can you move me to a specific group? You're on mute.
Sorry, you should be able to do that, but I can certainly do that. Which group would you like to go to?
2, group 2.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
I got sent to 2 where Nan was. So how do I elect to go to 1?
Let's
Wait,
see.
hold on. I see join breakup. Well, let's put me back in 2.
Let's see. I can.
Or
move
which
you.
one should I go to?
I think you were scheduled for 1, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But when I say
So-
join, it sends me automatically to 2.
Okay, I will move you to 1. Here you go.
Thank you. Janet was in 1.
Okay. So on your slide though, didn't you guys, well, I guess it doesn't matter. So which one do you need to go to?
Either 3 or 4, because Nan was in 2, Janet was in 1.
Okay.
So whichever one Leinani is not in.
Okay, you know what? Someone just asked for help, so I'm guessing maybe they're waiting for you. So that's 3. All right.
All right, thank you.
All right. Lynn, will you let us know when we've got everybody back?
Sure. Yeah. All right, all the rooms have closed.
All right. So Leinani, do you want to bring us all back together? I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, all right. Okay, so I hope everyone enjoyed their breakout sessions. And just a quick reminder, while we are not talking, we just ask everyone have their phones on mute. We are going to move next into sharing some key takeaways from our breakout session. And I am not sure who's going to share first, which group. I guess we'll naturally go to breakout session number 1. Is that okay?
Would that be mine based on the screen, or are we going to do it in the actual group? Because I got to do some surfing, some group surfing. So my scenario was we had a young man that had straight A's, was very involved in his school, model student, but at home had a lot of issues, and mom didn't want anybody, more than one person in the room. I mean, in the house at one time. So this was kind of the beginning of the process, and she didn't want anybody in her house, and problems were at home, but not at school. So we have Andrew Parker from Orange County, California, that has volunteered to help us summarize these 3 questions. So again, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. All right, so we have the 3 questions that we're going to start with. What are challenges to the engagement of the family and the youth voice? So big one right off the bat from the vignette, there's a lack of trust coming from mom. We thought that she was suspicious of the process. Maybe she's having some feelings of judgment, some fear that could be due to some past experiences with other agencies, or maybe even the agency that she's dealing with at the time. In order to address that, we try to fully explain the process so mom understands, feel a little more comfortable, and to try and bring enough different people and agencies together so we can actually get some collaboration and build an effective process for her. And another thing that we could do to facilitate that is ask mom who she'd like to be involved in the process. We kind of got the impression that the mom might feel like things are being rushed a little bit. Service provider might be rushing the process just to get the intake out of the way or to try and get everything done so that they can get involved with services. So although mom's lack of trust might seem like a barrier, there may be some systemic and other details and factors that are contributing to that. In addition to the lack of trust, there was also a stipulation that mom introduced as part of the vignette, not wanting to have more than one service person in the room at the time. So again, maybe there's something that the service providers could do to accommodate that. Why do they need to have a ton of service people in the room at once? That could activate some of mom's defenses, get a little nervous. The vignette was a little vague as to where the referral came from, but Joel commented and said that there may be some juvenile justice involvement. So maybe there's some credible fear of exacerbating the problem, making things a little worse. Let's see. Going back to the client himself, his name's Ethan. He's doing excellent in school, but the problems that he's having seem to originate mostly at home. So we're wondering maybe we need to engage him a little bit more, try and figure out why there's such a big discrepancy between his performance at school. He's got extracurricular activities, he's doing great, but he's just having a lot of conflict with mom at home. There's a lot of barriers there. There's sort of a short fuse between Ethan and his mom. They can kind of go off on each other a little bit. We thought maybe there was some physical safety issues that may come up as a result. And just in general, because the challenges are happening at home, maybe there are some communication problems. Maybe there's some parenting skill deficits that the team could address and certainly part of this exercise today, we're talking about peer involvement. Maybe we could get a peer introduced so that mom has someone that's on her team that she can be supported by. Maybe Ethan could use a peer himself to talk about what he's going through. Let's see. A few other things. We thought maybe mom could have some behavioral health issues of her own, maybe has gone through some trauma. Lots of confounding factors. I mean, we had approximately 5 sentences of a vignette, so it was very limited. We expounded quite a bit to try to fill in the gaps. And forgive me, I interweaved a little bit between the 3 questions, but I thought our group did a good job, and we came up with a lot of different systemic barriers and then other barriers that we can try and address by introducing service providers and building that trust, trying to get both the mom and the client to engage with service providers so that we can figure out what's going on and help them come up with a plan. I think that's about it. Did I miss anything?
Thank you, Andrew. Great. No, that was a very good summary. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I'll go next as for the second breakout. We did changing perceptions, and we kind of flipped it over a little bit because I had an excellent group of people who all believed in family peer support. So it was kind of hard about changing perceptions. I don't want to change their perception. They're great. So I kind of posed the question back and said, okay, so why did you want to have family peer support part of your organization? And through that, we did come up with some barriers. You know, there's always barriers, right? That sometimes family members themselves don't want to have family peer support, right? Like who are you to tell me how to do my life? There's fiscal barriers because we did talk about, I'm cheap, but I do have to feed my children. And then there's this other barrier about finding a family peer support worker. How do you do that? So we kind of brainstormed some ways around that. The question, the one that we flipped about why want one of these peoples, is that the clinicians in our group recognized that families are multi-crisis. The youth is in crisis, the family's overwhelmed and in crisis, and the best place and the best person to help diffuse some of that is someone who's already walked that crisis. And to be able to help them understand that there is an end. It'll look a little different, but there is an end to this. There's a normalizing, and that you don't have to live, like you've been zapped all day long. There's some concerns, about like, how do you get, and we talked a little bit about how New York got to where we are with the multitude of family peer support workers and youth peer that we have. But the best part of that is find someone in the government who's got one of those kids and become friends, right? Because they are us. And then help families. Families want to help. We just don't know how to help, right? Somebody has to teach me what I do to change a system. I don't come to know how to do that. And I don't have a lot of confidence in my ability, right? Because look at, things are not going real well at home. So we talked a little bit about those kinds of things. So we kind of flipped that scenario around that says, we don't want to change perceptions. We want to know why you want this. Why did your organization choose to go with family peer support? And what the folks shared is that they just need more. They want more. One, if for 3 counties is not enough. Their families are like, well, I can't even get that, so why would I want it, right? So I think, that's our challenge. That's like, Janet, you out there in the Wild West, when you can't get anything. And Texas is struggling with that. So we did talk about, and I'll leave with this, the resources at the end of our slide presentation. One of those resources is Federation of Families for Children's Mental Health, which now they just changed their name to National Federation for Families. And there's a chapter in every state, at least one chapter. Some states got multiple chapters. Call them, and those local chapters will help you find what you need and be able to have more family peer support. So I'm going to leave it at that. It was a great rousing. We had a lot of participation. So thank you so much to the group that was with Breakout 2.
That's great to hear. Thanks, Nancy. So our breakout group was talking about engaging the checked out parent. And we had a lot of consensus that there are parents on 2 ends of the spectrum. One, parents that are completely checked out and it's very hard to engage them. Maybe they are the ones who are sitting on their couch yelling at the kids or not showing up for meetings, not able, when they are in meetings, they seem, vacant and not there. On the other end of the spectrum, there are sometimes parents who are your hypervigilant parents. They're the ones that are overly engaged and right there ready to do everything and actually create barriers by trying to control everything. One of the things that we discussed was how both of those responses can be a huge response for anybody who's completely overwhelmed. One of the things that I've heard a lot in a lot of the trainings that I've gone through as a parent is that when you are completely overwhelmed and you are in survival mode, parents tend to go one of 2 ways. Either they check out because they don't know what the next thing to do is. And they feel, a lot of parents feel that, I use this example in our group, that if you rate your life and how good a person you are by playing tennis, if you're a terrible tennis player, you're not going to be too excited about sharing with anybody the fact that you play tennis or letting anyone see exactly how well you play tennis. But if you're, on the other hand, one of those other people who's like, dude, I'm going to nail this. You are out there practicing 24/7. You are talking about it. You are telling everybody you know about it. And, to the point of maybe getting injured and causing your own problems there. So that was one of the things that kind of came up with parents, is helping a parent realize that they're not alone, and reducing some of that survival mode can help engage parents because they feel less responsible for absolutely everything. We also talked about, and I love this, I think it was Bree that brought up strength-based reframes. So taking a child who may be running away and reframing that in terms of what the child may need, like it looks like the child needs connection right now, and they're feeling like they're running away because they're disconnected. Sometimes we'll help a family be able to reframe something that is really, really challenging for them in a positive direction. And also we talked about a lot of parents telling people that, oh, just fix my child. Like, here's my child, fix them, and then give them back to me when they're fixed, or coming back from a residential treatment facility thinking that their child's going to be fixed. And we shared that need can also be a grief response for families. Like, I know when my daughter was diagnosed with Angelman syndrome, which is a really severe developmental disorder, you do kind of get that. It's just part of I didn't grieve the loss of my daughter. I grieved the loss of the idea of what my life with my daughter was going to be. And that got me stuck for a while until I could get past some of that. So we talked a lot about that. There was some really great conversation in there. Talked about changing perspectives, modeling being present, and building rapport. And that's not a fast, quick fix, but over the long haul, it was reported that was where a lot of people had success, was really just taking the time to get in there and be empathetic with the family. One person shared, I think it was Rebecca, shared how she is in, like, she'll go in with the family, and it was a grandmother who's now raising her 4 grandchildren. And at least 2 of them, she said, had some pretty significant issues. And she was saying, just being able to sit down with that grandma and being able to say, look, I know you didn't sign up for this. You already raised your kids. This is, and they need more than what you feel like you can give them. And you're exhausted, and, you have all these financial needs, and you have all these other needs and everything. We get it. We know you are doing everything you can. Suddenly that grandma's not feeling judged. And that's kind of the default position for families, is to feel judged. So if you can break that tension immediately by seeing them and seeing where they are, that seemed to be a really effective way of starting to build rapport and engage families. And then one of the big challenges that someone brought up was that this is, I think, in Washington State, right, Rebecca? It was Washington State, that your peer and family supports are not accessible from the moment the child leaves to go to a residential treatment facility, which they called CLIP, I believe, until 8 weeks before they come home. But then that treatment facility won't engage with the family support person either. So basically the child's going from a highly structured environment, transitioning back into their home with no support for the family the entire time they're gone. So while the family may have time to catch their breath, their expectations and their understanding of what's going to happen when they come back is really off. So those were kind of some of the highlights of what we discussed today. I'm going to pass it on to Leinani, and I'm also going to change the slides to our resource slide, just so you all will be getting a copy of all the slides, so you'll have a chance to get this, but I did want to leave it up here for you so you could start to see some of the resources we have available. And Leinani, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Thank you. So most of our conversation in our breakout session was centered on the barriers that were experienced or surveyed in peer services. And some of the barriers identified were with supervision, finding the right fit in a peer supervisor that embodied certain qualities. So a supervisor that could come up with solutions, someone that is, or help the peer come up with solutions, someone that's good at motivational interviewing. Looking for a supervisor who is invested in the work as they are, willing to walk the walk was what was said, and I love that. And finding someone who's willing to listen and hear their perspective. Another challenge or barrier that we talked about was over-reliance. And that would be, of course, inadvertently preventing the family or the youth from developing those knowledge, skills, and abilities that they'll need to sustain after their peer relationship ends. And oftentimes, seeing symptoms reappear when there's to talk about discharge. Also, with ethics and training, the fact that there is often inadequate training on ethics for peers versus the wealth of ethical trainings that are available to clinicians. And also dual relationships. That has been a barrier and a big challenge. And those peers who sometimes may be in a situation where they're providing services to others whom they were previously in recovery with, or those who may be friends, or they know in some some sort of social setting. And then lastly, we talked about career path, and one, that there's not always a clear path. And then assuming that a peer's natural next step would be to become a licensed mental health professional, which may be true for some, but an incorrect assumption for all. So that is it in a nutshell.
Great, thank you, Leinani. So we thoroughly enjoyed being here with everybody today. This resource page we put together from things that we have all found useful in our various areas. Some of them may be very familiar to you, some of them may not be, but they're all phenomenal resources and places to be able to reach out to for various and sundry different avenues to get help. And then we also have on our next slide here, this is the fans. And Nancy, you want to just speak real quickly about this?
Okay, we started to do this back in '07. We worked with Dr. Lyons and his crew. New York since 2000 has been a CAN state. And at a conference I mentioned to John that, hey, we're really good, Family Peer Support had something, and he said, okay, go to town and tell me what resources you need and we'll, work with you. So we spent about 18 months. We came up with 15 questions. And then as our system in New York has expounded, the Office of Mental Health and Department of Health asked us to add the 4 more questions that more align with the CANS New York. And we've got, then in the beginning of this year, we went to our training online for recertification. We still do, well, I do now. We were doing in-person, what we call basic, it's a 2-day training. And then on the tool, we follow all of Dr. Lyons's rules. Everybody's got to be, certified. You've got to take the test, and gosh darn it, you in the new world, you have to be a 70%. In my world, I want you to be 75%, but Josh tells me I can't do that. There has to be consistency. So these are the questions, and this is what we believe in Family Peer Support, that if we can help a family get stronger in these areas, there's a whole bunch of other work that they do. In these 19 areas are the foundation of strength for the work that we do in New York State. So anybody have questions, my contact information is here. You can call me, write me, email me, and we can talk a little bit. Thanks, Janet.
Myself. There we go. Now I'm unmuted. So we have just the last slide here is just our contact. It's actually our websites for the different groups that we're with. But if you are on the Socio app, we have our contact information on our profiles there. So please feel free to reach out to us there. We'd love to hear your comments. I thank you all for coming and contributing today. I've learned so much and made so many wonderful connections. Please reach out to us on the Socio app if you have any other questions. Hang around here. We're happy to stay and have a conversation here afterwards. We'd also love to know what you thought of the collaboration today. So please give us your feedback so we can make it even better next time. And yeah, so we'll just open it up. I think the 4 of us or 5 of us are going to hang around here. So if you have any questions or want to start a dialogue, just take yourself off mute and we can run from there. If not, then we'll probably see you in some other breakout sessions at TCOM, and enjoy your time.
Thank you all for your time and energy. This is a long 2 hours, so we really appreciate it.
Before we go into questions, I just wanted to thank the presenters for presenting their session today, and thank all of you for your participation. Up on the screen, I have the little nugget. If you're playing the Mind Cans game, the little nugget on here. For this particular session, we're not requiring the survey link afterwards, so don't worry about the link. There won't be anything in the chat box. You don't need to fill out a survey. But thank you for participating, and stick around to ask additional questions if you'd like to do that.
Great.
Sounds like we had some really great conversations in the breakouts. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was really good. I hope people let us know for next year. What else would they like to know about?
Absolutely.
That'd be a lot easier than guessing. Or having to do a survey. It was great. You guys did a great job. And really, look at 2 hours.
It's good.
I can't believe that we stuck to right to 2 hours.
We managed right on time. Does anybody have any questions, anything they want to share with us, experiences or something from your home state?
Good.
Maybe how you do it in your state?
Right. How you want to do it? We can be a small army. Cause a revolt. I'm with it. I only got 3 years to retirement. I'm good.
Nancy's down with the state revolution. This is the part that I miss about being in person, is everybody walking up afterwards and saying things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I said in my breakout group. I said, I wish we were in New Orleans. I could take you to some cool places I know about. Just
I'm
walk down
counting
the
on it,
street.
Joel.
Right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
I'm counting on it. We're gonna get back to Louisiana.
In 2 years.
Lynn, do you know where we are next year?
Next year, the plan is actually to do it in Lexington, Kentucky, to take advantage of our new home.
Sweet.
And then I believe the plan is to go to New Orleans the following year.
Kentucky's good. We like Kentucky.
I haven't been there yet, but I heard Lexington is very beautiful.
I've driven through it many times on my trek from St. Louis to Tennessee. So
Anything from Buffalo is good, guys. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Just let's leave Buffalo.
Well, Buffalo's good for snow.
Yes, well, that's if you like snow. And
we had our first skiff of snow out here 2 days ago.
did you?
It was 80 degrees a week and a half ago, and today, 2 days ago, we had snow.
See, we had that 70 degrees. We actually broke 2 records for 2 days in a row. 76 one day, this late in November. I'm like, oh Lord, we're going to be having such terrible winter. And then today, now it's dropping. Yeah, it's like down into the 50s. So
Yeah,
probably have snow on Thanksgiving or something.
you're just getting our weather a few days after we had it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much. You could again, that's one thing I don't particularly want you to, march on. You could keep your own darn weather.
Nicole says, I live in Wisconsin. You guys want some snow?
No, thank you. Oh Lord.
Yeah, we don't want snow. We don't want COVID either.
No snow.
There's a
We've
lot
got
of
that
in
enough
Wisconsin,
out
too.
here.
Louisiana has no snow. I'll say that. I can't speak about COVID, unfortunately. We've got that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went back up. If our numbers in the west part of the state don't go down in the next week, he's going to put us on lockdown again.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh Lord. Like, I got to go get my hair cut. That's like all I'm thinking about is getting my hair cut. Because it was like, oh Lord, I can't go like this hair and another 5 months. I'll be looking like you, Janet. It'll be down to my, down my back. I don't know what to do with it. It'll be going all over.
Well,
I
it's
feel
funny
you.
because several years ago, I guess it's been about 3 years now, I just decided I was done coloring my hair. So I just let it grow out. And and my hair would never, like when I was young, it would break. I couldn't get long hair. And
Wow.
more compliments on my hair in the last 4 years since I just stopped doing anything to it than I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, I stopped coloring because, my picture on my profile is, the red with a little bit of blonde. Yeah, I was too much. Doing this was like, just cut it off and just leave it. And my sister the other day when we were Zooming, she's like, oh my God, how come you got so much gray? I said, it was gray. See, on the last